Hello everyone, my name is Agnès. I'm an artist living in France. I want to welcome you to these little Draw With Me series. I'm using Procreate, but feel free to use whatever medium of art you want. It works with pencil, watercolors, any paint actually. So I already worked on a little sketch. So I did a very quick, rough idea of what I would like to draw and what we're going to draw together. And as you'll see, there's nothing fancy, just really quick little strokes. And for today, we're going to be making this into a line art. So I've made a new layer on top. I'm going to choose the rusty pencil brush, which comes with in the brush library of Procreate. So this is for the month of February, as you noticed. So I did a little love scene with, again, my little characters for this project, which are little birds. So if you look closely, you can tell that my shape is kind of oval. That's the easiest way to start. I'm going to show you. Kind of start with the oval here, and then an oval for the wings. Here for the tail, I'll use kind of like a cone shape. Again, triangles here, and a triangle here. So that's the basic shapes that we will use for our little birdies. So we're ready to begin. I'm going to delete this layer and put a new layer. So here we go. I like starting with bottom part because it's already a cutting point, and I'm not so picky as far as following my sketch to a T, especially since my sketch is very rough. Okay, add the little eye. We'll add the beak. For our wing, we kind of follow our oval shape, but then I'll add these little triangles on the ends, and I can continue my little bird. Oops, not totally. Continue my little bird shape there on the bottom, and go with my imaginary cone shape for the tail. Let's move on to the little triangles. So one will be in front, so then I can erase the line of the body. For the feet, I'll just make two little in the front, a little curved line in the back. Kind of like it to go like this a little bit, though I didn't do that with the front one, so we'll just leave it straight for now. Again, he's leaning, or he's sitting or standing on a little branch. Okay, I will add maybe a few little strokes. I like adding a little texture, little pattern. It adds to the cuteness of it. And we have our first little birdie character. I'm going to make a new layer for my second bird. So this one I can even follow a bit more for the oval. It actually looks quite roundish. And the little tail. Don't see his full tail. Make his little eyes, half ovals, and another little triangle for the beak. And again, a few little strokes, little lines down for his tummy pattern. It's kind of like feathery. I'm just going to erase this part that we don't need. Again, we added little triangles. So these ones, he's not really in front, they're kind of more behind. And he is facing this way as well. So I will make his double. This one does need to go in front, doesn't it? So I will erase this part. There we go, we have our two little birdies, our lovebirds. So I will label. It helps me not to get mixed up after. So I click on the middle part and it brings out the keyboard. So this is bird left. So you click on it once and you push rename, put your finger right in the middle and it brings out the keyboard. Bird right. That way, in case I want to find my layer easily, it's much easier than to try to, okay, which one was this? I'm not going to label this one because it's just my sketch, which I will erase later on. Moving on, I'm going back to the sketch layer and adding a new one. I think I'll add in here all my little branches. It's okay if they're on the same layer together. So for my little branches, I'm just making a middle line, like the branch, and then adding little lines going up, down, in, out on all sides, actually in towards my middle line. So I'm adding a little pine tree branch because February is still wintry and cold. You still see pine trees left over from Christmas. So I chose to make a little pine wreath. And I'm including lots of little hearts as my berries. And I'll add a few little leaves as well for fun and variety. Again, for the pine leaf, I'm adding the little branch part, the middle part, and then little triangles out in. They can go this way, they can go that way, they can go together. There's not really any rhyme or reason. Here, moving on to my little berries, my little heart berries. I thought it would be cute. Berries fit with the pine cones. Sorry, not pine cones, pine leaves. And hearts fit the February theme. This one is a little bit bigger. So as you see, it will get easier. And I'm not really following my sketch. There's not a right or wrong way to do your leaves. And these as well, they're just a line in the middle and very quick leaves. My little hearts. So that's kind of the style I'm going for. Very rough, very simple. I have my specific style that I usually draw, but when I try out different art, copy somebody or try out a new medium, I just love the process. It's so relaxing. And I notice that I have to do that once in a while. So that's when I take my classes. I also take classes, either to get better in something that I want to improve in, and sometimes I take a class because I need a break. I need a break from my style or from my certain project, and I need to draw just for the fun of it. Then you can go wild with copying because you're doing it for yourself. For your own project, you want it to come from you. But when it's learning something, it's a great idea to go and steal like an artist. Steal ideas, steal techniques that you can try out and play around with your own work. So sometimes I do that too. I do get inspiration by seeing other artists at work. I don't know if that does the same for you, if you're an artist already. Hey, that's a kind of a weird one, really, but not sure what this is because here's a huge long branch. I think because I kind of wanted to end my wreath with two big branches here, so I might add a leaf to it. So it's not all by itself. Maybe these I will add a leaf instead of a pine, since there is a leaf here already. So as you notice, I'm not totally following my sketch, which is the beauty of it. The fun of it, I think. Some are bigger, they're all shapes and sizes, really. And some are just up in the air, nowhere, for no rhyme and reason. And with this picture, I guess you chose it because it is the style of the art. Very rough, very quick, very simple. And I like to do this once in a while. It's not my usual. I like adding a lot of color, a lot of details. But I find that going from doing something out of the norm is definitely good for me. It's good for my creativity. Okay, so we're almost done. This one does have quite a bit of details because it's a big wreath. Almost there. I hope you're able to follow along, okay? That the speed is all right for you. Feel free to pause it if you need to catch up. Feel free to fast forward in case you're ahead of me and I'm going too slow for you. My leaves are very rounded, so I'll continue with that style. I've made a few leaves like this. I guess you can see there's a variety of types of leaves. Some of these are pointy and bigger. I have the pine leaves and my rounded leaves. Okay, one more pine leaf here. These are quite fun to do. I'm just going back and forth in all directions. Hey, so how's yours looking? Oops, I have a couple here. Do you know what? I'm going to add a new layer. First, I'm going to name this one. Rename as wreath. Here we go. I'm going to add a new layer for these little odd ones here, because they go on top of my title, my little scroll. So just in case I want to move them around or maybe animate them, you never know. So I kind of plan ahead and I leave room for that in each of my projects. Most of my projects, I don't have them all planned out to a T. I kind of start out by drawing for fun, and then I see where it takes me. So in case this one takes me to animate a few of the objects, make it as a GIF or something, then I'll be able to do that easily. Some of my art I create into clip art. Some others I create for wall art. Some others I put on GIFs, little souvenirs. All right, this one, oops, I did not even add a new layer. So in that case, I'm going to select this here, and I'm going to put 3 fingers down like that, swipe and cut and paste, which automatically pastes it into a new layer. So now I can rename this layer. Click here, and I'll call it objects maybe. There we go. So now they're there. That way I can always move them around if I want to. And I'm going to do a new layer. We're going to do our little hearts. So again, those I left apart from the wreath because maybe some of them go in front, maybe some of them go in the back, and I like playing around with that. Okay, I still have my same brush. I'm gonna start a little line here. I'm not even perfecting my line. I like the little open spaces in my heart. I'm doing a little bit smoother lines, fuller lines. It's a little bit wonky, isn't it? What I can do, I'm going to select this part of the heart. And again, actually this one I'm going to copy and paste. Go to my little arrow and I'm going to flip horizontal. And there we have the perfect heart. I don't know if it's perfect to my liking, but in case I want to change anything, for example, I don't need this little line here. Oops, not that part. I want that part, but I don't want this part. I can erase this part. For my previous layer, I'm going to erase that part. That's okay, it's a funny shape, but all right, I'll go with it. So I'm going to merge these two layers. Now we have our heart in one. And I'll continue with the little details. I have some little strokes, stitch strokes here. I think that's a cute little addition. Kind of ties in with this style. I could probably make these perfect with a stroke, with a dotted stroke, a little line stroke, but I prefer the hand-drawn feel. Here's my little circle for the tie, and we have the words love. Now, usually I don't include text in my art because I don't include much text, because I never know what language to put it in. I speak French and I speak English. I live in France. I live close to Germany. They speak German and French here. So I stick with English most of the time, because I think English is loved and used internationally. All right, so we have our love, and in the same layer, I'm going to add these little hearts around the wreath. I just added these because it kind of fills up the space. So I'm not sure why you decided to take this class, either because it's the month of February and you wanted something that is fitting to this month, or maybe you wanted to make a card for a loved one or a sweetheart and you found this a cute idea, or you're making your own little calendar planner. So whichever way, I hope it will suit your needs. Here we go to rename our layer. A new layer for our little ribbon and text. So here I'm just going to go straight through. That way, in case I want to put in front or behind, I can do that without having to redraw it. If you're just doing this on paper, then you might want to just skip the parts that have the other objects in front. See, for example, I'm not even sure if it's totally straight, so I have the option to move it, to make it straight. There we go. I think that's a bit better. I'm going to write my letters. So I'm not an expert at lettering, as you can see. It's a very easy sort of font that I used, but it kind of still adds a little bit of cuteness. I'm going with my R's this way. A little curve there. All right, February. I kind of like the mix of capital and lowercase. And in case it's not totally centered, I select it with the select tool, and then I can move it a little bit more to the side. I think that looks good. We need to go here to be totally centered. Right, and let's see what it looks like. Let me do this last thing, which is label this one. I'll call it text. Go. Let's take off our sketch. And there we have the final result. Good job. So now that we have our line art finished, we're going to add in the fun part, which is the colors. So I did already a little planning, because I don't like coming to class unplanned, unprepared. And I chose a few colors in my palette. So we're going to do something very simple like this. I'm adding 3 colors in my palette. And as you see, I just scribbled in the colors to know where I want to fit everything. I like adding some of the colors a little bit all over the place. And I think we can get going. So I'm going to make a new layer. I'll take that off. I'm going to make a new layer on underneath my line art. I can delete the sketch now. And here we go. These will be our colors for the wreath. I'm going to make the colors for each one on a separate layer. That way it will be easier to work on them and move them around if need be. So here's the wreath. I'm going to go again, look at my example. So the wreath, I use this light grayish blue color for these rounded leaves. So I'll start with that. I'm going to go to my palette and I will pick this one. Maybe I'll pick a tiny lighter version of it. I pick a brush. I keep the same brush that I used for my sketching. It's rusty pencil. And all I have to do is just change the size a little bit. I make it a little bit of bigger size. And here I go. I'm just going to go around the wreath and color all my rounded leaves. So you can see it's okay leaving a little white or going out of the lines a little bit. I kind of like that style for this picture and for this project is what I'm looking for. Very organic pencil. If you miss out on one, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. You can just go back or you can leave it uncolored too. I just wanted to have certain things stand out a little bit. But it's not really, there's no rhyme and reason to it actually. It's not, I could have also colored in the pine leaves, for example, instead. But I thought that the pine leaves are quite nice in black and white and they already stand alone pretty well, whereas these ones were kind of hidden in between everything. So that's what I chose. Now I'm going to go back to I'm going to go with the lighter leaves, which is this color. I'm staying on my same layer because it's all part of the wreath. So now I will go for these leaves, the pointy ones. Are a little bit bigger. Again, these were a little bit hidden away in between everything else. I think what takes over is the pine branches, which I love, because it kind of gives the shape of the wreath. And since there are so many strokes, so many lines, I think it's enough to stand alone without color. I've just chosen a few colors for this palette and it ties in with my whole little project for this monthly calendar. If you want, you can choose your special colors that make you happy, that you enjoy, that light you up. If you want to switch one out or choose a different type of green or blue, then feel free. Okay, now that there's one here, which they were part of objects, so I'm going to make a layer underneath it and put color there. Anything else? It's funny that I didn't add any of the leaves on this side. What I do sometimes, actually, is I like to add in some without even any lines. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. bring in a little bit of the green on this side. So again, feel free to go with the flow of your art, of your creativity. Even if you're following a class, I like leaving room for each one's favorites, styles, colors. Maybe one over here. All right. Maybe we'll go with one here, with one that has no lines. I even like leaves sometimes close by, but not part of the. There, I think that's pretty. All right, well, I could keep going and fill up my whole page with leaves because I love leaves. But I'm going to put a stop to it, otherwise there is no end. The next one is the hearts. So I'm going to choose my pink. I'm going to go under my hearts and add a new layer there. And I've chosen to color the big hearts for this one. The little hearts are cute too. I'll see what I do. Maybe I'll end up coloring them as well. But I thought that at least if I have some hearts colored, it will add some contrast and it will show the theme of the picture, the theme of the month. Now the interesting thing is for this month of February, I think different countries celebrate very differently. In the States, Valentine's Day is for anybody, everybody to celebrate. A child may give a Valentine card to their teacher or to a friend. Husband or wife may give a Valentine gift or card to each other. Even kids can give to each other. But in France, it's very much so just for lovers. So if you're not very close and in love, you don't give a Valentine, which I thought was a little bit different and I wasn't used to. I was used to sort of celebrating it the American way because I was born in France, but I have traveled and I lived abroad most of my life. It's funny how we get used to different cultures, isn't it? And yeah, like the States, you can actually, and probably other countries too, you can give a Valentine's card to a friend. But in France, you don't give it to a friend, you give it to your lover or to your husband or wife. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm just leaving a little white around. I'm gonna see how that looks. I'm just trying it out here, but so I'm leaving out. What you can do instead, if you're working on the iPad as well, just color the whole thing and then include a white line. That works too. I'm trying it this way, but feel free to do what you prefer. If you're doing it on paper, then you definitely want to leave the white line because it's hard to add a white line after. With crayon or, pencil or eraser, you don't really want to do that. As you see, I'm just outlining here my letters, leaving out some white as well. Now again, you could just color the whole thing and then add some white to these letters. Maybe I should have done that, but now that I'm done, I'm going to put a really big, even bigger size brush. That way I can go really quick. So that's a nice thing about using the tablet. Some things take a lot of time. You have to work with layers. You have to change brush size, all that. It can be a little bit taxing or it can be a little of an adjustment if you're not used to it. But once you get the hang of it, just have a few tools in hand, a few tools that you know how to use and are comfortable with, which is basically my level of Procreate. You can still do something wonderful. And you realize that it's definitely a time saver. Okay, yeah, I do like the white there. let's see our last little colors. So I have some blue, which is the same bluish gray as the leaves, and then a lighter shade of that for our birds. So our bird on the right, I'm going to do new layer, and I think it's this color that I used. Might need to change the size of my brush. I'll use this small size for the outline again, just because I have some corners here. I don't want a super large size. So you see, I'm not coloring it totally perfectly because I like the little white. Oops. I think I'm going to stop with that part, leave the legs a different color. Now I can change the size. Yeah, as I was saying, I like the little white part, unperfected look. And the strokes. Okay, and for the other bird, I don't have it in my palette, but I'm going to go with a lighter blue. So I'm going to do a layer underneath again. Let's see if it's a little bit too bright, I think. I'm going to lighten it a little bit. I wonder if it should be a little more gray. Yeah, I like that. So I have the big stroke now, the big brush size, so I'm going to do the middle part. I think it goes really quick with a big brush. And for the edges, I'm going to take a smaller size. That way I can do all the corners. I do this little part, but the feet are usually a different color, so I might end up not even coloring them. Since I didn't color that beak, I'm going to just use a white for this beak. Alright, well, I think that's all the colors I used for my little example. For some reason it looks fuller the other way. But I liked it, the simplicity of it. I think I'll keep it to that. Or what I could do is take a pink. So as you see, I'm free to play around with, change my mind. That's the nice part of art, isn't it? I'm going to add the little berries, I think, which is part of the wreath. So I can, is that the correct one? Let's see. Uh-oh, I made a mistake here. I added color to my line art. But it doesn't really matter because actually I'm going to merge them anyways afterwards. But I'll just go to this layer. Let's see what it would be like to add some hearts in a different shade of my pink. Yeah, I like that. That way they don't get lost in the pine branches. Moving on. Notice that I forgot to leave here. So as you go over and over again with all these colors, and these I need to go to my other layer of objects. I think I like that I included these hearts because then at least there's more color down here. The objects. There we go. And I was going to pick this color. So to pick a color, you just put your finger on it and you'll see that it picks the color that you need. I go back to my wreath and I'm going to continue this, which I had forgotten about. Alright, well, I think we're done. Look at that, just a little bit of color changes everything. We're going to add a little bit of shading to our picture. Something that I'd like to do is merge my layers. So I was with my wreath and I'll merge the colors. That way it's very easy to move them around if I need to. Here's my objects layer. I'm going to merge with the colors. I'm going to merge the hearts. So The way you do that is you just pinch them together. Here's my right bird. I'm just going to pinch these two together. And my left bird. There we go, so that it makes it very easy after to work with them. And on top of each one, oh, the only problem is that I lost my titles now. But it's working with a lot fewer, with much fewer layers, so it's easier to keep track of. I'm going to add a new layer on top of each one, and instead of the normal, I'm going to multiply. And I'm going to pick a gray color, very light gray. So this is for my light bird. And I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of shading, just a little bit, in the places that are sort of behind. So here he's behind this bird, so I'm mainly doing it in the corners. So as you see, I'm just adding little strokes, tiny little strokes. This I'm going to do it fully. Even under the eye a little bit, tiny little strokes, because I like the informal look, pencil look. And a little bit on the wing. This one is behind. Just a little bit on the tail. So I don't know if you've noticed a big difference. It might not show a big difference. And if you put it with and without, it just adds that little touch to make it look even a tiny bit, a little more real. Maybe I'll add a little bit to the feet as well, especially this one, it's behind the other one. And then I can merge these two. The next one, I'm going to add a little shadow to this bird. Oh, oops, I did forget to multiply it. Otherwise, what happens is just that. I started coloring gray over the lines, and I don't want that. I want it to multiply that way. If I color over the lines, you'll still see the line just as clearly. So here I'm going to add a little bit behind here, a little bit behind the wing. This little leg here. The wing a little bit on the edges. Could even add a little feathery look if I wanted to. I'll see. And this part I'm going to color in fully because it's all the way behind. Here I like adding parts that are behind or in the corner. And I just use very simple little strokes. Again, the little tail part and the outer edges. And there we have our little bird. Let's see what it looks like without. So it does make a little difference. I'm going to merge that. Our text we're leaving as it is for now. Let's see the hearts. I'm not sure if I want to do anything on the hearts. Well, we'll try. Here we go, a new layer, and I'm going to multiply it. Let's see, maybe we could add a little bit on the top here. Well, because this style of art is very simple, very cute, I don't want to lose that. And sometimes I think by adding too much shadow, you lose the simplicity of it. So that's why I'm not gonna go really big with that. I might add a little bit to the edges, to the bottom part of the hearts. Let's see what that looks. Yeah, it kind of gives a little contrast and makes it stand out a bit. Gives it a 2D look. So I like that. There's not many other objects to add. Oops, no, this is for the wreath. So I'm just focusing on the hearts because that's the layer that I'm working on. I find it easier to work layer by layer. And I'm also doing all the shadings layer by layer. Sometimes I add some highlights. I could do the shadings and the highlights for each layer, but in another class you might see me doing that. That's because I don't have it perfectly planned out. Sometimes I just go by inspiration. Okay, so we have our hearts. I like that. Let's try without. I'm sure you can see a difference in yours as well. So I'm going to merge those layers. This is my object, my little objects. So I'm going to add a layer and again, multiply it. And here, very simple. For the leaves, I'm just going to put a little bit on the bottom part. And maybe the hearts too. Let's see what else. I don't know if it's necessary, but I don't have much else to shade in this one. So we'll go for that. Maybe I'll add the... Let's see what it would look like if I add a little bit of shading to my pines. I don't know if that's necessary, but okay, we did it. Let's try. So I just take it from the bottom, from the center, and kind of work my way out, just a little bit like that. And I'm done with the objects. It's nice and quick. My wreath is going to take more time because there are lots of objects, a lot of details. So here we go. I'm just going to, what helps to multiply and pick just a gray is if I want to add shade to each thing, like to the leaves and to the hearts, I could do that. I could pick a darker version of the peach color. I could put a darker version of the leaf. I could pick a little more reddish or a little more greenish. And I do like that. So some of the time I color that way. For this one, and just to make it easier and quicker, I'm just going with multiplying it, and basically it just takes this color that I used and the gray and adds it to my already chosen color. This one, I might just make one little line. Not even gonna touch these. So it can go really quick, actually. These take a little bit more time because I'm making the little strokes. I'm going to leave out the pines for now. I find that I could go like this, but I find that doing it manually like this kind of adds more texture and it makes it less perfect. More of the pencil. Oh, I keep moving to eraser. More of the pencil look. You may think that these little details won't make a difference, but if you look at it all together at the end, you'll be happy that you did it. Especially in real life, looking at the colors of nature just amazes me. Makes me want to draw just when I go out in nature. So many beautiful things. All right, we did all of it. Let me see what it looks like if I add a little bit of one pine here. I'm trying not to take my pencil off. That way I can undo it all in one go. Yeah, maybe it's okay. It gives a little bit of depth to our... Either I'm going just with the middle or I'm choosing to make some of the lines. And I do the stem. So it'll be just like if you add a little pencil shading to it. We kind of went on the foot there, but I think it's okay. You didn't even notice it. It's like he's up in the air, doesn't it? Well, it's very random, I know. Very sketchy, very unrealistic anyways with our little bird creatures. That's what I love about cartoon style. Cutesy style, because you don't have to get the perspectives totally right, you don't have to get the colors totally right, you can just go wild and free and crazy. So we have our crazy bird standing in the air. I don't mind this gray because it was kind of part of my palette anyways. Feel free to skip this part if you don't want it. You can just fast forward, you don't have to do it if you chose not to do it. Or you can even choose a different color if you'd like to add a little more color to your picture. I'm going to color in all the little stems there. Okay, I like it. I think we're done. And there we have our little February picture for our monthly calendar with our little cutesy birdie characters.